Next, let's talk about the disposal of unauthorized plants. One thing to note is that it's not just plants that test above the acceptable hemp THC level that may be unauthorized, but if you look at the rule, it says plants are subject to destruction with no compensation from the government and no insurance coverage if they test hot, right? So above that 0.3% THC level, if they're located in an area not licensed by TDA, and if they're not accounted for in the TDA reporting. So again, where we come into play with your license application needs to be accurate and describe exactly where the plants are going to be grown and handled and harvested or stored. And you also need to make sure that you comport with all the TDA reporting requirements that we'll talk about in another section, because failure to do so could result in your crops being subject to destruction. Now, the TDA rules say that you're required to comply with the Controlled Substances Act DEA reverse distributor requirements for destruction. That was set as a mirror to the USDA interim final rule that had the same requirement. For the 2020 growing season, the TDA and the USDA suspended that requirement, and they allowed a number of different destruction methods that were listed on the USDA website. The USDA rule makes this a permanent change at the federal level. It does not require a reverse distributor. Instead, it lists a number of options. Again, keep an eye on the TDA regulations and the TDA website. I would expect for TDA to take this same approach and either just leave that suspension in place of their own rule or modify the rule to allow for these other destruction methods. Now, so we're going to talk briefly about the option for remediation. Again, this is something that was contained only in the new federal USDA rule. It was interesting, it had not been contained at all in the interim final rule, but now USDA will allow for remediation. Essentially, if your crop tests hot or doesn't meet that acceptable hemp THC level, you can remove and destroy flowering material and retest what's left, right? Because oftentimes the high THC content is going to be in the flowers, and so you could remove the flowers and retest the stalk, stems, leaves, seeds, and see if you can get within that acceptable hemp THC level. Another option is to shred the entire plant and create kind of a biomass-like material and retest that. So again, those are options that are in the USDA final rule. We'll see if that's something that TDA adopts as well. It was not included in the TDA rule as it is currently published. In addition to that remediation, as I said before, for the 2020 growing season, USDA and TDA both allowed for a number of different disposal methods to be allowed. That includes plowing under, disking or composting, mulching, shredding with a bush mower or chopper, burying or burning. And so, again, those rules were in place last year because USDA and TDA both sort of suspended that requirement of using that DEA reverse distributor. So there are a number of disposal options, and there is good information about this located on the USDA website if you want to get more in depth as far as what these options require a producer to do.